All right, we will call this meeting of the City of Eureka Transportation Safety Commission meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call.
Thank you, member. Commissioner Edgerton,
Present.
Commissioner Griffith,
Here.
Commissioner Beaudry,
Present.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
And we're missing Commissioner Marcelon and Commissioner Mueller today.
Okay. And our first order of business is approval of the minutes from the May 13th meeting. Anyone care to make that motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
I was not here, so I need to recuse myself.
I'll second.
Oh, then we'll wait till next time.
Sweet.
Great. Okay. And then next we'll move on to public comment. This section of the meeting provides the public an opportunity to address the commission on any subject not appearing on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Transportation Safety Commission cannot take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Any request that requires action will be set by the commission to a future agenda or will be referred to staff for review and action. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes to address the commission. Do we have anybody here in person who would like to speak on general public comment? All right, doesn't look like it. Do we have anyone here on Zoom? Oh, I look like Colin. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. It's Colin Fisk with CRTP. I'm just wanting to follow up. Hopefully you all received my email, which is inviting you to participate in this year's Week Without Driving, which will be happening end of September, beginning of October. For those of you who haven't participated before, this is really an opportunity to kind of experience what life is like for the many folks in our communities who are non-drivers, either because of age or disability or income or immigration status or any number of other reasons. And so really encourage you to sign up to participate in that. And also leading up to that, just next week on Thursday at Arcata's D Street Neighborhood Center, we will be having a speaker who is Anna Zevarts, who is the national founder of the Week Without Driving and also the author of a great book called When Driving is Not an Option. And so just want to encourage everyone to come out to that and hear what she has to say and maybe get some of your questions answered directly from her. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else on Zoom? All right, doesn't look like it. So we can close the general public comment period and move on to business. We have no old business, but for new business, we've got a request for installation of green curb at 402 F Street. I'll hand it over to you, Jay.
Good afternoon, commissioners. We're about to pull up. Yes, right here. So the City of Eureka Transportation Division recently received a request for a 12-minute parking zone or a green curb at 402 F Street, currently the Coast Central location. The reasoning behind the request is to expedite ATM parking access. Currently, a 2-hour parking zone exists at this location, leading to limited parking access to the ATM fronting F Street. A parking study was conducted on the dates of 6/3, 6/4, and 6/5, and which demonstrated the average length of the time parked was equal to 2 hours or more at this location. There is currently a 2-hour parking limit at that location, and the request was made by a Jess King, Quality Service Manager at Coast Central Credit Union.
All right. Has anybody got any questions about the curb? You're thinking hard. How many of these do we have in the Old Town, downtown area? Do you know?
Green curb locations?
Yeah.
On F Street, just on that 2-block radius that I know of off the top of my head, there would be, if we requested this one, there would be at that location. There is one in front of Paul's Pizza.
Okay.
And then there's also one in front of Patrick's Candy.
Okay. Cool.
So there are just a couple that are right off the top of my head. I couldn't.
Yeah.
name any more.
Why 12 minutes?
That was her request.
I'm just curious because I've seen those signs before, and I've thought, why not 15? Why not 10?
In the EMC, it's 12 minutes,
Okay.
1 hour, 2 hour, and then 4 hour.
Okay. All right. Shall we move on to public comment, or do you have a question? Okay, cool. Do we have anybody here who would like to comment on this particular item? All right. Nobody in person. Anybody on Zoom? All right. Bring it back. Any sort of discussion? Allison?
I was just thinking there's a similar zone right outside of the post office and bank in Henderson Center. So it makes sense to me for this.
Any other thoughts? All right.
I will move adoption. If the staff are seeking a recommendation, I'll move adoption of the 12-minute parking zone.
All right. All those in favor? Green curb?
I think we need a second, and I'll second.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Now all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Unanimous pass. Our next request is the request for removal of on-street parking near 2100 block of Summer.
All right, commissioners. Recently, city staff has been notified from concerned citizens and emergency services regarding the narrow street widths, on-street parking, and emergency vehicle access. It has been brought to the city staff's attention that certain streets in the city present challenges for emergency and city vehicle access, which could potentially jeopardize public safety in critical situations. The narrow width of some local streets is inadequate for accommodating parked vehicles while ensuring a clear and unobstructed path for emergency and city vehicles such as fire trucks, ambulances, police vehicles, and garbage trucks. This restricted access can lead to delay response times during emergencies, posing a serious threat to the well-being of our residents. The south side of the 2100 block of Summer and Pine Street is where the request of no parking zone will be established. The street segment consists of a two-way directional travel flow that has parking on both sides of the street. The street width when entering the block of Summer and Pine is 23 feet and narrows down to a width of 14 feet in the easterly direction of Summer Street. The segment of Summer Street where the request is being proposed shall have placed 2 no parking signs along the south side of the street to allow for adequate emergency vehicle access. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about this one? Yeah, Shanti.
I can't tell from this image, is that housing multifamily housing or is it single-family housing on that block of Summer Street?
Which side of the street?
In general, is Summer Street mainly single-family housing, correct?
Where the no parking is single housing. Yes.
Okay.
On that side of the street. On the north side, there are multi-resident.
Okay, and parking will still be allowed on the opposite side?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, not so much about this particular area, but in your report, you said that there are other streets that are also concern or have been concerns. Is this one just coming up now because this is the most concerning, or are there other spots where this needs to happen as well?
This was the most recent request that was made by emergency personnel.
Okay, cool. Does anybody else have any questions? Should we take some public comment if there is any? Yeah. Okay. Is there anybody here in person who would like to comment on this item? No. All right. Anybody online? No. Okay. Well, then we'll close public comment. And does anybody have any thoughts, concerns? Yeah.
I guess my only question is I'm seeing where where people could park. It seems like it's the north west. I'm not great with directions. The northwest corner where it turns, is that can people park there? Does that make sense?
Like where it's grassy?
Yeah, or
Kind
like
of.
the northwest. I just with the where the corner is. I don't know if If that also narrows it.
I'm trying to understand. There's a couple locations of grass that you're.
Do you mind, Jay? We're gonna share. Oh, go ahead.
Here, right? Is that a no parking zone, or is that parking?
That would still be parking.
Yeah, that would still be parking. I think the issue here is this segment. You know, we look at this street and it's like it's not really a street, so to speak. It's more of an alleyway, but it's not necessarily fall into the gridded out pattern in the city of like, oh, you know, street, alley. So it's a little bit different, and so we're trying to standardize it to a certain degree and have it be a little bit more like an alley where you don't have parking on a narrow width like that. And so with having parking on both sides, it really constricts down, you know, the ability for a large vehicle like fire truck to be able to get through there. So that's why we're just restricting it to one side and eliminating it on the one side to allow for, you know, free movement through there.
And maintaining Summer Street for addresses. Should not fully classify as an alley.
Right. Any other comments, anything? No? All right.
I'll move adoption of the no parking zone on Summer Street.
I will second.
All right. All those in favor of no parking on that side of Summer Street?
Aye.
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 All right. Looks like unanimous pass. Great. Then we'll move on to reports. We've got a presentation on the City of Eureka Participatory Budgeting Program and project submission for funding sidewalk repair through mosaic installation. Hello.
Hello, folks. So I have a presentation about participatory budgeting. We had a project that came up that was for sidewalks, and so I'll explain a little bit about what participatory budgeting is, what this project is, and give a report of what we're looking to do. Ultimately, what's going to happen with this is this will be presented to the Economic Development Commission, and they will be the body that approves this, but we wanted to show you this really cool idea.
Could you also just introduce yourself?
Oh, yes, sorry. My name is Suzanne, and I work in the finance department, and I am the lead staff person for participatory budgeting. So participatory budgeting, it's developed in Brazil in the 1980s as a way to involve residents in a public budgeting process. And that's where public funds will be allocated and set aside for this process. And community members will come together as a group to decide how they're going to spend the funds, what funds they'll spend, and what projects they'll do. And it's from a ground up community decision point. The project submissions for these funds are from the cycle that was allocated in 2024. And residents from each voter ward, and those are the different wards within the city of Eureka, they can hold public meetings, they can hold the community meetings, or we also have a submission process where people can say, hey, I have this idea and I'm going to apply for funds to be used in a specific ward, and that's where that will go before the Economic Development Commission for approval. And the funding requirements, that has to be for a public good. It has to be a one-time expenditure. It has to be within city limits, and it has to reflect the visions and values of the city of Eureka. And we've taken that from the sort of mission statement or the strategic visioning statement from the last strategic visioning cycle. And I have that up there, and it says, Eureka, a historic city embracing the future while honoring its natural ancestral heritage, where safety, inclusivity, sustainability, and innovation converge to create a vibrant and thriving community for all. And this most recent cycle, council allocated $15,000 per ward for each of the 5 voting wards. And these are some of the projects that we had from previous ones. There have been street murals, pedestrian safety equipment installed, and then utility and rental assistance programs in a previous cycle. And this year, council has approved funding for facility improvements for the Eureka Theater and have funded a participatory budgeting program, a sort of mini one for the youth council. So they get to do a whole like tiny mini one, which I'm really excited about. And the new submission process has gotten a lot of community interest, specifically within the first ward. And this is the application is for a sidewalk mosaic project, and I'll go into those details here. So this is for flacking, a sidewalk repair through mosaics. So flacking, it's a mosaic installation. It began as a sort of anonymous guerrilla art slash sidewalk repair by an artist called MMM in Lyon. And it's happened in a bunch of different European cities, and recently the artist has come to a couple of American cities. It comes from the French word for puddle, and the concept is to bring beauty to a space through the repair, similar to visible mending for textiles or kintsugi, which is repairing ceramics with gold. And this is you may have seen this in some different art installations where it's, the idea is the repair brings more beauty to the piece. And the project was proposed by an artist and muralist and Ward 1 resident, Murda Silva. And the submission, it was sent to, so I received the submission, and all submissions, I send them out to relevant city departments to review for feasibility. Engineering department has reviewed this and determined that certain sites and use of specific tiles and finishes will allow for installations that will meet our required standards. And we're also working on developing an agreement for property owners similar to the street tree agreement. So we'll have something in place, which I'm really excited about. Okay. And like I said, because this was proposed through the submission process, this is going to go before Economic Development Commission for approval for funding. And staff is recommending that this project is approved. And if it's approved, the mosaics, the specific sites will be identified, and staff will advise on each of the specific installation if there's any preparation or other specifics for each one. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. The flacking agreement will be finalized, and we'll be working with the artists about different requirements for, say, repair, looking into the future, not just putting this in right now, getting the approval from property owners, but also what happens after the artist is done. And the artist will procure the approved supplies and tools, and then we get to begin the mosaic installation. And we're available for questions, engineering staff and myself.
Cool. Anybody got questions? Yeah.
This is so cool. I'm really excited to see these popping up all over the place. I do have a question about just why we have jurisdiction over this topic. Is it just because it's on public sidewalks?
Yeah, that's so the crossover is here in this case, while Suzanne described, it's stemming from economic development and, participatory budgeting. This is going on our public sidewalks. And so that's where we wanted to bring it to you and introduce the concept. As was mentioned in the presentation, it's really important that we make sure that the installations meet accessibility guidelines. That's really important. We don't want to create slipping hazards or anything out there like that. While they may be repairing something that's already a hazard, we don't want to create another hazard by doing that. So very exciting project, but that's why it's here today.
And just so I understand, because you referenced something about agreements with individual property owners. So I'm just curious, like if it's a public sidewalk, how does that work?
I'll take that one as well. So our sidewalks in the city of Eureka, unless they're facing a public owned facility, the sidewalks are the responsibility of the private property owners. So the maintenance and upkeep of those sidewalks are the responsibility of those private owners. So, for example, the street tree program is a really good example because that's something that's already in place and out there. So if a property owner wants to install a street tree, or they want to work with Keep Eureka Beautiful to install a street tree in front of their house, they enter into an agreement with us because while it's a public facility, each individual property owner who fronts that, they have the maintenance responsibility for it. So it's the agreement of like, if something like, for example, a street tree were to uproot the sidewalk, big roots, they upheave the sidewalk, they'd be responsible for replacing that sidewalk area there and restoring it back to a acceptable condition. So similar thing with the mosaic tile. It's pretty much the same concept there, if that makes.
So the installation is done with public funds, but if something happens to the installation, then the property owner is responsible for fixing it? Is that what?
Yeah, so that's why it's important that we have this agreement in place and that the property owners are, this is not something where the property owners are not going to be aware of what's happening. They're very much going to be aware, and it'll have to be, through their agreement to do it. So if there's a proposal to, say there's a hole in the sidewalk, if that property owner does not want to enter into that agreement, then that's fine. We'll have plenty of holes in sidewalks, I think, to find and fill.
I just want to say I think Mir De Silva's art is amazing. I'm super glad she proposed this project, and that's really all I have to add.
Anything, Philip?
The thing that came up for me initially was that looks slippery, but I defer to engineering's expertise on tile selection.
I know that there's been at least one, if not a couple of different finishes selected that have a no-slip surface, and this is similar to a mural that went in on sidewalks in other locations, like in front of Eureka High School or in Henderson Center.
Yeah, that was my big thought too. My only question is like so this is coming out of Ward 1. Where is how does one apply for this, and how do you see what other things are being proposed and approved? Will there be some sort of like roundup of all the stuff?
Well, the artist has submitted a list of sites that engineering has gone through and kind of gone through like go, no go, like, yes, this is something that's eligible because of the placement. It's not going to have some other problems with other standards. There are more than enough sites on that list that have already been identified to use up the funds that are available. So if there's something in the future, that's going to be something to sort of go down that road when we get there.
Yeah. Well, I was curious about other projects within the larger participatory budgeting thing. You said that there's a submission form that, other folks could
Yeah, there's a few
apply.
other projects that are in development, and there's two that are, this one and another one that's going to be proposed to Economic Development Commission, I believe. Both of them are going at the one next week. And I believe there's still funding available in Ward 2. And there's more information about this at eurekaca.gov/PB, as in participatory budgeting, or peanut butter if you are so inclined. But there's $15,000 available for a community for a group to come together in the second ward and say, this is how we want to spend these funds, and we will decide as a group of residents, or for people to submit and then have those submissions approved rather than the group of ward residents by the Economic Development Commission.
Yeah, cool. All right. Does anybody else have anything else to add? Yeah.
I'm just happy that more public art is going to be going in, because when the Eureka Street Art Festival ended, I was sad about that, because I feel like it's one of the things that makes Eureka cool and unique. So I'm happy to know that there'll be more street art coming. Smaller, but still really cool.
And it will help us to not trip when we're walking down the street. This will be very functional art. Yeah. Cool. So this is a report, so we don't take any public comment. So if anybody else doesn't have anything else to add, thank you, Suzanne. Yeah. I will move on to a staff report on the C Street Bike Boulevard.
All right, we'll shuffle around here and get our next presentation set up.
So much action today.
Where, oh, where did it go? Nope. One moment, please. I'm gonna try. Yeah. I don't. It was pulled up and then it was gone. There we go. Okay. So sorry about the delay there. We thought it would be a good time to give the TSC a update on the C Street Bicycle Boulevard project. This project is steaming ahead into construction. Right now, it's scheduled to start construction next week. So that's happening. It's coming very quickly. And we've been doing some outreach as far as sending out information through the mail. We've had some meetings internally with interested residents, kind of describing the project and their to help them understand what the project is. And so we will. I thought that maybe when we could just walk through the plan set and kind of show you what's included in the plan set as this is set to go into construction, and talk about kind of through that, be able to discuss why we're doing this project, some of the benefits and some of the consequences of doing a project like this. So a little brief background. This is a project that's funded by the Active Transportation Program. That's a program that's Federal Highway Administration dollars that come through Caltrans. So they're state dollars, but they come through they're state wash dollars, I should say, but they come through the Federal Highway Administration. The project was awarded a couple years ago as far as the bid, and now we're at the point, after a couple years after award, moving into construction. There's always time allotted there for finishing design of a project, putting it out to bid, making sure all our documents are in place, our approvals through the California Transportation Commission are in place. So that's how we arrived here today as far as the funding of the project and here. But this project is really, it's a bike boulevard. It's really our first big foray into a very trying to address a lower level of traffic stress facility in the city of Eureka when it comes to bicycle infrastructure. As you can see here on the area map, it stretches all the way from Waterfront Drive on the north down to Harris Street in the south. So it really does cover a very large north-south segment of the city, which is great. We'll walk through past all this boring cross sections and get into a little bit more of the meat of it. So I will probably try not to bore you with every detail as we walk through this, but we can definitely come back at the end if there's any questions or anything in specific that you guys want to talk about. So on the upper left here, you see this is our connection here to the 1st and C Street intersection. This is a pretty integral intersection in the city as far as our walking and biking pathways go. The Eureka Waterfront Trail heads south from here along 1st Street. This C Street, this is where we enter into the C Street Plaza, the Fisherman's Terminal, the connection to the boardwalk. This is a kind of a hub here, so it's a great connection point to have a facility like this that heads, that connects to an east-west route heading to the south from here. Through the Old Town area, we decided to take a lighter touch with infrastructure in the street, as this is already a very pedestrian friendly and used area. And with the shops and everything down there, there's a lot of, during during markets and that sort of things, part of the streets get closed down already. So this was, rather than having full infrastructure shut down like we would do through like the residential area that we'll talk about later. And when I say full shutdown, I mean kind of trying to reduce the number of vehicles that would be trying to access through certain points along the corridor. We kept this area open and primarily signage and striping through this zone here, as well as paving. And you'll see we head from First Street right to left to Second, and past Second to dropping down to the bottom of the page to Third, and then on to 4th Street. And so 4th Street, as you'll see, is kind of whited out there. And that is because Caltrans' upcoming project is going to be taking on that part of the project in that zone there. We worked with them early on in the process to kind of have cutouts through the state highway system, so that, you know, as far as the city expending funds, that we would try to, the funds that we get would go into city facilities, and Caltrans could bring some of the funds, other funding sources that they have to kind of continue the facility, but through the state highway right away at 4th and 5th. So at these locations, I should say, there is intent by Caltrans to put in crossings with flashing beacons. I haven't seen the final plans for that, but they are intended to provide, you know, a pedestrian activated beacon here. Really, 5th Street really can be a spot where vehicles on 5th Street can really get a lot of speed coming off of Broadway and then heading northbound on 5th Street 101. So this will be one of those areas where a pedestrian could a pedestrian or cyclist could activate a beacon and really draw attention to themselves in crossing there. Again, that's Caltrans' project, and they're going to be installing those with one of their upcoming projects. I believe it's happening this summer. I don't know the exact dates of that project though. So continuing on the city's project, we come over here to 6th Street on the upper right hand side. And what you'll see here is what I believe is going to be intended for 5th Street over here. But this continues to be a similar configuration for the intersection. One of the differences you'll see here is there will be a new push button. Enhanced RRFBs will be installed. That will, again, allow for greater notification to vehicles who are heading southbound on 6th Street to alert them that either a cyclist or a pedestrian is entering the crosswalk. There'll be new signage installed directing folks to different areas, Waterfront Trail, where the bicycle boulevard will be. You'll see we'll have green marking paint through the intersection, really highlighting the route for cyclists to take through the intersection. Let's see. And this will be pretty similar. You'll see this kind of similar application through other busy intersections as we head across there. So I may not pause as long on those, but again, at the end, feel free to ask questions. Heading down to the lower section, we come down here to 7th Street. So this is one of the first areas which I've kind of called diverters, traffic diverters, and this is a spot where we're switching 7th Street C Street as it enters into 7th Street into a one-way on the east side here. The reason for this is to slow down the number of vehicles that would make a right turn on 7th Street into C Street, therefore reducing the volume of traffic that could come off of a large, high volume street and enter into this street that's supposed to be a more lower level of traffic stress. So in this case, while cyclists will still be able to come onto C Street, but it will only be one way for vehicular traffic. Again, you'll see push buttons on both sides for the enhanced RRFBs. We have new planter installations kind of marking the area of the one-way, hoping to not only kind of help produce a visual, barrier to enter there for any vehicles that might try to turn in there, but also to allow an opportunity for beautification, so kind of be able to accomplish two goals in that scenario. So each of these one-way diversions kind of is about a block long, and so if we head on to the next sheet here, we'll go to 8th Street. You'll see that here at the top left of your screen. So coming into A Street, going to the east, you have two-way traffic again, two-way bike, two-way car traffic. But then going to the west, this will be a one-way in only. So you'll be able to head westbound, and I mean northbound. I always get upside down when plan sets have north, not going up. So apologize for that, as I'm probably confusing the heck out of you. Nonetheless, to the left, traffic will be able to continue through. A Street traffic will continue to be able to pull up to this, stop sign and continue through in those directions. So as we head to the south, now that I've got my my wits about me here, as we head to the south, there will be striping, signage, paving for the new striping and signage with an overlay throughout the next few sections here until we get to Simpson and Hillsdale. So here at Simpson and Hillsdale, you'll see we have a few median islands out here placed in a configuration, and this configuration is really twofold. One is to narrow the street lane width through this area to any vehicles that are going through there. They'll want to slow down, and also it'll help eliminate through dangerous movements from Simpson to Hillsdale or Hillsdale to Simpson, where people are trying to quickly cut across through this. We don't want that. We're trying to slow down movements on C Street without limiting local access. So residents along here, we don't want them we want them to have all the access they've had before to a certain degree. They should be able to get to all their driveways, all their residents. It's just going to try to slow down the traffic that's on their street here. It also allows for creating a shortened crossing distance here in this middle median island, where pedestrians will be able to have a median refuge island to cross there. So that'll also be an enhancement for pedestrians. Heading down to the bottom street here to the 14th Street intersection, again, we have another one of our diverters, as I refer to them, basically creating two one-ways coming into 14th Street. So you will not be able to be traveling on 14th Street and cut off onto C Street. You'll have to go a block. You have to pull off a block earlier or go a block past it and go around a block if you want to get on C Street. Again, this is just trying to discourage people from, jumping in there and really using C Street as a way to, move across town quickly back and forth. Again, we have ped or bike activated or cyclist activated push button assemblies, planters to help delineate it. Bulb outs are being installed to shorten crossing distance, and again create that geometry that really gets people's attention when they enter the intersection. That this is not a place that you want to drive through quickly, and that the green paint, the signage, the striping really gets your attention and brings attention to the peds and cyclists in the area. Heading further to the south, jumping ahead to Wabash. Here at Wabash, you see we still have this intersection is still open. There's no one-way diverters, but there are the push-button assemblies for crossing C Street as a cyclist or pedestrian would want to for increased safety. Del Norte Street, we did install another median island splitter here, again for those two reasons we talked about before. Just kind of narrow the geometry of the roadway and slow folks down, as well as stop the cut-through motion from Del Norte Street from one side to the other. On the top right, you see we move into Hawthorne, and this is the beginning. It kind of splits two pages here, or splits the upper page and the lower page as far as the alignment. Again, this is another one of the splitters, and this is Hawthorne coming up from the west, and then connecting with Hillsdale, I believe, on the heading to the east on this side down here. Heading to our next major intersection where we have changes, Boone Street. Again, we have two one-way diverters, so you won't be able to be on Boone and turn off onto C Street another way. You'll have to go up and around or get off a little bit early to take one of the parallel blocks. similar to the last, I believe, is Wabash, where we have pedestrian or cyclist activated push button assemblies and the bidirectional enhanced RRFBs, striping, planters, bulb outs to help bring attention to cyclists and pedestrians. I'm starting to feel a little bit repetitive here, so we'll keep on rolling. Bear with me, we're getting close. And I think our next one is here at Harris Street. So this is with the south end of the terminus of the C Street bicycle boulevard at this point. And here, again, this is a one-way diverter. So coming off of Harris, you wouldn't be able to turn directly into C Street. You got to go around. This highlights, and this connects to the bike lanes here on Harris Street. And I think that seemed like plenty. So I'll stop my presentation there and answer any questions that you might have. I guess I will repeat again that we have met with some of the community members, brought them in here to City Hall. We've walked through some of this and talked. One of the concerns that's out there is parking. Parking is a concern across the city. You guys hear about that a lot more so than a lot of public members because you sit on this commission. But there are some trade-offs with this project in installing some of these installations. There is going to be a reduction of parking in some of those intersections, and that's just one of the trade-offs that comes along with having a very low level of traffic stress facility like this, where you're trying to really add in hardscape and geometry into the roadway that slows vehicles down. That's one of the trade-offs. Is there are some parking spots in some areas. We've done a look at like the number of parking spaces along C Street, and it's some number that I want to say is in the 600s as far as like parking spaces along the entire length of C Street. 800, sorry, I was off by a couple hundred. Like 800 spaces, we're going to be affecting, I believe, in the 20s, 20 to 25, I believe. So in the big picture, we're not affecting like a large part, but there are going to be folks who own a property with parking, in front of their place will be affected. And we have met with some of those folks and talked with them, and others we haven't heard from. So I guess that's an important thing to consider again, as you all well know, parking is a big consideration here, and there's always trade-offs in a project like this where you're changing geometry of roadways, and it's an important one to keep in consideration, and when you're making decisions like this to understand. So I guess with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I guess my question was about what people's concerns are. Are there things other than parking that you're hearing from folks?
Folks were concerned, I think, a little bit about access in the discussions that we've had with them, though. I don't think that they understood. Most of the people that I've talked to, and we'd have to talk to Jay or Brittany, I guess, to get their opinions, but like the folks that I've heard from have been access, will I be able to get to my home, or how is this going to affect my home? The parking has been the number one concern out there for folks, because I think the larger picture of parking in Eureka has kind of, folks who don't live on this street are still concerned about parking. So they're concerned about, in general, parking and the loss of parking across the city, not just on C Street. I think the residents here, the ones we've talked to, one of their concerns was access, but then they heard about reduced speeds and how this is really going to reduce speeds and volumes in their neighborhood. And it turned into kind of a positive for them, because they are, at least the ones that I've talked to, have been like, oh, wow, that's really going to change the character of our roadway, because you're not going to have folks who are just using it to cut across town. They're going to find another way, because it'll be too difficult to, or might be too many things to slow them down as they go through. So that's kind of the feedback I've had. Yeah.
Anybody else have questions?
Noticed some treatments I haven't seen around here before on pages C103 and C109. You have green going in front of the car stop line at an intersection that's signalized. And so the implementation of that I've seen elsewhere around the country is that bicycles are intended to pull in front of vehicles when there is a red light and start first or start early. Is that the intent here?
Yeah, that's the intent. I think H and I streets, we have the bicycle boxes out there where the cyclists pull in the front, and so they're able to get fully in front of whatever vehicles might be behind them when it's a stop, so they have the the right to move ahead there.
Thank you.
My question is just about, I'm sure you all have studied the likely diversions, and I imagine a lot of that traffic will end up on H and I. So I'm just wondering, have you guys thought about how the additional traffic on H and I or other parallel streets is likely to be impacted? Because I know we also did improvements on H and I to make those more bike and pedestrian friendly. So yeah, I'm just wondering how you guys are thinking about where that traffic is likely to be diverted to and what impacts that could have.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the trade-offs of doing a project like this, is that the volume of traffic is going to bleed off and go somewhere if it's not going there. Our thoughts are it's probably not likely go as far as H&I, but more of those direct, streets on either side of C Street would see the most uptick. That I think is the challenge with bicycle planning. It came up through the master plan a lot. If you have a bike lane here like this that has a lot of infrastructure installed with it to try to reduce vehicle volume on it, then maybe the neighbors on that who like that, they're pro, but then the neighbors on the next street over might not be as excited about it because it will increase the volume there. So it is one of the consequences of doing an installation like this. So we're providing a lower level of traffic safety corridor across the city, where H&I is not the lowest level of traffic safety. You're on a major thoroughfare across the city, while you have a buffered bike lane and you have a lot more pavement markings and signage to try to bring attention to the cyclists or the pedestrians. It's still not a low level of traffic stress like you would have with a trail. And this is not a trail. It's not going to have the same level as like a trail because you're still on the roadway with vehicles, but it's just another level that we're installing here. The consequence is, you are going to have some potential bleed off. We don't anticipate that it's going to be like world ending, where all of a sudden there's going to be like traffic jams on the side streets.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the center. I can't think of what it's called, but the mid road pieces to select.
Median islands.
Yay! Thank you. To slow people down on Hillsdale. I used to live near that road. It's the way the roads are lined. It does encourage folks to speed. So I think that's a great. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
And I can't remember, you probably went over this before, but does this involve repaving the entirety of C Street? Okay.
Yeah, and I should say we're paving C Street, for the striping and some of the work that we're doing along there. So it's a roadway that definitely needs it. Mm-hmm. Some of the side street areas we're looking at doing a slurry seal overlay to talk about, some of the bleed off to help put those roads in a little bit of a better condition. Most of the roads through here paralleling C Street are residential, and as far as our pavement management programs going, those aren't the focus in the big picture. Trying to take those high volume roads and get them repaired to serve as many people as we can. But so on C Street, yes, paving throughout the length, at least through the travel lanes. And then some slurry seal from a different project that'll come later this summer in early August will be in the neighborhood. I think it's California, the California area over there.
Cool.
Additionally, C Street was selected because of its low ADTs. It has under 500 collected vehicles per day. The streets to the west, B Street, is currently already classified as a collector, so it is already classified as a street that collects more than your local traffic. And then just to the east, we have E Street, which is also classified as an arterial. So those streets with our bleed off was projected on to B. And then we have a slurry seal project that was thought of with this project for A Street and Pine, for also additional traffic that might bleed off from C Street. But we don't anticipate much bleed off because of the low amount of daily traffic that rides on C currently.
Thank you. I'm really excited that this is happening. I ride C Street a lot, and my biggest concern has been the crossing at 4th and 5th. But it sounds like the Caltrans will be figuring that out around the same time that this is being finished. Is that right?
Yeah, I can't make promises to their schedule, but I know that they have a funded project that has similar treatments to what we're doing on our intersections that'll be there, and that they're very well aware, especially with the 5th Street crossing and how how much speed people generate coming off of Broadway onto 5th Street, because there's no signalized intersections from Broadway up to E. They're on the same page with us on this. We've coordinated for the last 5 years, and I think it should come together this summer. Fingers crossed.
Cool. Anybody else have anything that they would like to add? Yeah, just yay. Yay. Thank you. All right, then we'll move on to subcommittee updates. We've got the Neighborhood Street Closures Pilot Program Subcommittee. Do we have any updates on that?
We should plan to meet.
Yes. We will do that after the meeting.
Yes.
All right. Wonderful. And then we can move on to future agenda items. The on-street parking meter pilot program and the link housing transportation projects. Is there anything that needs to be said about any of those? No.
No, I don't think there's much at this time until we're, I think, ready to bring those forward. And hopefully our next meeting, we can give an update on the parking lot meter program.
Cool. And I know that our newest commissioner, Tim, had requested an agenda item about speed humps and traffic calming measures specifically. I don't know if we were able to make any movement on that. I think what he was hoping to see was something about like reports from emergency services about what their concerns were and like just the feasibility of speed humps.
Yeah, we received his request, and it's something we've been talking about internally, and
Cool.
hopefully can have something soon.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Yeah, good.
Does anyone recall the last time we got a report on traffic fatalities? I think it's been a while. Is that something we do annually, or how often do we get those reports? And is it possible to just sometime in the next few months get an update on how that's going? Is it going in the right direction or not?
Didn't EPD come a couple months ago to discuss it, or was that about? I thought it was.
They
included
came, it was
fatalities.
about 2 months ago, and we talked about maybe having them come quarterly.
That's right.
So that would be, they would be set to come next month if schedules align.
Yeah, we have been talking with PD about coming back and attending these meetings, at least 2 times, if not more than that, a year, and providing us update. I felt the last update was good. And then, on the collision front, I do think, in speaking with the chief, that there is some information there, like Brittany mentions, getting schedules lined up and getting everything so they can come here and give us an update. That's what we're working on.
Yeah, because it seemed like traditionally like that there are numbers that are released annually, right? We usually get like at the beginning of the year with the TSAP.
Yeah, like the
Right, all that,
Tims
yeah.
and Switters, all the
Yes.
collision information.
Yeah.
No, I think we'd either do that in conjunction with some of the with PD. Yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, we have since that last report, there have been fatalities.
Yeah, and sorry if I missed the meeting where that happened, but
Yeah.
I would love to just see how we're doing.
Yeah, and it's hard. Those, the hard part I think with that data is there's a lag in when it comes out, like the official data that comes out. Those usually, like more recent ones, don't come out for a year or two, and so that's how it's been historically. It's nothing that we have control over. That's just the way that it gets processed and sent out to the local agency, or to everybody, not just local agencies. But that doesn't mean that we, having EPD here, that they can't speak to some of that, being that they're more involved, at the local level here. Just wouldn't be the official data that we would use to, base our decisions on when it comes to like going after grant funding and those sorts of things, because they wouldn't allow us to use those.
All right, does that answer your question? Okay, cool. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, comments, concerns? Should we adjourn the meeting?
Yeah.
All right. See you all next month, August 12th.